Hello, BookTube, and welcome to my channel, Jim Reads Too Slow. I'm Jim. First of all, go Chiefs. Chiefs whipped on the Raiders today, which is always good to watch. Um, I thought I'd do a little weekend wrap up of what I read this week. I'm a little bit proud of myself for finishing one of the books that I started. Um, but first, I'm gonna have a little sip of just some basic Old Forester. Wet that whistle. Get some of that chocolate banana flavor. Very good stuff. So this little guy right here, William Faulkner's Light in August. This is one of the books that I started this year and didn't finish, and then went back to and finished it. So I'm a little bit proud of myself. Part of my Faulkner project for the year. Like I said earlier, I started with As I Lay Dying in July, read that. Loved it. One of my favorite books of all times. I was not prepared for how hilarious As I Lay Dying is overall. It's got all of the tragedy and the Faulkner heaviness and everything in it too. But I just that was a surprise, very pleasant surprise. Then in August, Faulkner in August, we went into Sanctuary. That was a trip. I am not sorry that I read that one. Uh, the only sorry thing is I kind of crapped out on the Voxer group that I was involved in. Um, but hey, I read the book. I had had a good time with reading everybody else's comments. Then I read The Sound and the Fury late in August. Work of genius, obviously. Beautiful language again. I'm going to have to read it again another time or two, I think, to really get all the juices out of it. But that was a book that I loved, and I'm proud of myself for having gotten through it. Then at the start of September, like I said, I picked up Light in August. I thought, wow, we'll just keep this train moving down the tracks. And I read the first chapter, and I needed a break. I needed to take a Faulkner breather. So I set it down, moved on to some other things, and then kept it in the back of my mind. And when December started, I picked it up again and finished it this past Wednesday. So first impressions. Again, the language, Faulkner's language is gorgeous. Um, it's just beautiful. I love that aspect of it. The book itself is kind of light on plot, but it's deep, deep, deep on description, characterization. It's a real study of the characters, and it is a brutal book. Brutal. Um, the story begins late one August when a young, very pregnant girl named Lena Grove arrives in Jefferson, Mississippi from Alabama. She's gone in search of the man who impregnated her and then took off to get a job and establish a home. And then he was going to send for her, of course. As she approaches town, off in the distance, she sees this house burning down, or she sees the smoke from it. And then we back up and we see events leading up to the fire, what made the people involved, particularly Joe Christmas and Joanna Burden, what made them the people that they were. Time is very non-linear in this book. It's fluid. We see some of the same stories from different viewpoints as we jump around. There's a murder. There's a fire. We jump to the present. The murderer is dealt with. And then Lena and her child leave town for the next phase of their search for this guy who, by this time, we all agree is a complete waste of space. I wonder if Lena and her child, thinking about this after finishing the book, are not really the light of the title. Um, because apart from Lena and maybe a few of the positive changes in a couple of the characters as a result of her coming to town, this is a very dark, bleak book. Um, all of the main characters are on the fringes of society. They're all isolated, and they have their own way of dealing with their isolation as events just hit them one after the other. Extremism plays a very big part in this book. Fanaticism, religious, racial, even nationalistic, and combinations of those three things. And this is a part of from the just plain old everyday racism that we might view as extreme today, but in this book it's just a fact of life. Faulkner shines a very bright, harsh light on race and race relations in the South in this book. And as I said, it's brutal. It's shocking. It's super uncomfortable. So if you haven't read Faulkner before, be prepared for that. The primary example is Joe Christmas. Now, apparently, Christmas is a mixed race man. He's called Christmas because he's found on the doorstep of an orphanage on Christmas night. We don't really know for sure whether he's mixed race, which underscores the racism here, because the truth doesn't really matter to anyone. There's the possibility that he's part black, and so it's just taken as fact by everyone that he's black, including Joe himself. So he doesn't feel, throughout his life, he doesn't feel that he belongs anywhere. And that's reinforced by the way he's treated, that he doesn't belong. He's treated hatefully, and so he reacts with hatred. Even the people who attempt to show him kindness, he reacts with violence toward them. Joe is kind of the anti-Lena, we could say. The South, the country as a whole, had not made much progress in race relations by Faulkner's day. And I read Faulkner as really criticizing that. And with the exception of the use of the racial epithets, I think it's obvious that we still have a long way to go in this country. Faulkner also strongly criticizes religion in this book. It's not a source of comfort. It's not even a positive force, religion, at all. There is no sanctuary or forgiveness. Religion is an excuse for inflicting pain and injustice. And it causes people to do horrendous damage to one another. Love and marriage also are shown very negatively. Until we get to the sweet relief of chapter 21, which I would argue is the closest thing we get to a happy ending. The people in this book who are married, their marriages are described as prison sentences. Each partner is in solitary confinement. Reverend Hightower, one of the book's outsider characters, he's a survivor of sort of a bad marriage, survivor of sorts. Perhaps they were right in putting love into books, he thought quietly. Perhaps it could not live anywhere else. That sums up the attitude toward love in this book. So overall, it's not a positive message, but I think it's important. I think it's a very beautiful picture, beautifully painted picture of ugliness. And I'm glad I read it. I do recommend it to anyone who hasn't read it. I assume, though, that I am the last person to have read Light in August. So please leave a comment and tell me what you thought of it. Moving on, I intend to take another little William Faulkner break while I dive into the work of his fellow Southerner, Flannery O'Connor, during January. At some point, though, during the new year, I will steel myself to read Absalom, Absalom. So that was Light in August. Another book I started during the year and set aside and then picked up again this month. I haven't finished it, but I am making a real dent in it, is this book right here, Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I haven't read any Virginia Woolf before, so I'm going to read this. I'm reading it. The other thing that I am working on is, let me see here, this little guy here. Eye of the World, Robert Jordan's little novella here. I'm going to get into the Wheel of Time, drinking the Kool-Aid there. So, just barely got started in that. I think I'm on chapter 4 or something. So, let me know if I'm making the right decision on that one. I think that will do it. So, BookTube, thank you for letting me waste some of your time. Until next time, have a good one.